Monster Energy practice. It's been an exciting week so far for the Monster Energy Series, an exciting week for me here at NBC, Rick. We unveiled the NBC All-Star Pit Crew. It's a great concept, great idea to basically go in the garage and find the men and women that make up the fabric of NASCAR, the ones that have great stories of perseverance, great stories of performance, great stories of how they've impacted their community. And just last night on NASCAR America, we unveiled the first 3 members of the All-Star Pit Crew. We had Frank Mathilia, the engine tuner on the 3, Caleb Hurd, the gas man on the 11, and Jeff Zarella, the tire specialist on the 41. And Kelly, I think you've caught up with the 41 car.
Yeah, we're down here in the garage, and actually, I've got a very cool t-shirt in my hand, which is the official Pit Crew All-Stars t-shirt, and obviously Jeff Zarella. Can I give it to you now? By the way, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I bet it's pretty cool to be so many deserving men and women of this award. Congratulations to you on this. It takes an all-star pit crew to win the Daytona 500, which is exactly what this 41 team did back in February. When I talked to Kurt Busch and his crew chief, Tony Gibson, earlier, I asked him what it was like showing back up here. And Kurt said, you know, it feels a little bit different, actually. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, we've conquered this place before. Now, remember, they don't have the same car they won the 500 with. That's now on display in the museum. In fact, Kurt told me that he plans to go and visit his old car sometime tomorrow. But the car they have here finished 6th at Talladega. Tony Gibson calls it a good little car. They're planning running a pack, which they did straight away, then get some single car runs, and now they say the car feels pretty stable. Looks like they're getting ready to get it back out on track here shortly. One other quick note, you may have gotten a quick glimpse of Kurt Busch's helmet. He's got a very cool Stars and Stripes theme for this 4th of July weekend. And once again, a little look there at Jeff Zarella, one of our pit crew all-stars.
Hey, Jeff, you know as a driver how important your crew members are. They can make or break your year. Jeff Zarella was a really easy decision. This man has worked 30 years in racing. His entire life, grew up in the Northeast, worked with the modified guys, names that I know from up there, Reggie Ruggiero, these big names in modifieds, moved south, joined Stewart Haas Racing in 2009, and it took all the way to this year, standing in victory lane, winner of the Daytona 500, kind of the pinnacle of his career. But that's really what racing's all about.
That is what it's about, and the personalities in the garage. We hear a lot about the drivers, we hear a lot about the crew chiefs, but these are the guys that make everything happen. There's so many different backgrounds, you come from so many different areas, and it's so cool that you've taken time to recognize these guys.
Earlier this year, that was 41. Kurt Busch crossing the finish line, and look at the elation as Tony Gibson is about to fall out of his chair. Oh, man.
And that's what we're talking about. You look at Tony Gibson, it was well documented how much it meant for him. This was his hometown race, and the idea of this pit crew and this All-Stars is to go behind the crew chief, to all the men and women. I know for my career, I had to be surrounded with talent to find success. Tony Gibson would tell you the same thing. It makes me smile just seeing the excitement on his face, and that excitement continued through the entire team.
It really did. And this is one of those victories that throughout the entire garage, you want to win every race, right? And when you don't win, you're heartbroken. But then when you see a guy that you have respect for like Tony, it makes you feel good about it. And everybody in the garage was so excited to see him win the Daytona 500. That emotion, that's priceless. That's why you do it. That's why you work the hours. That's why you spend so much time away from home. It's for those types of moments.
And guys, meanwhile on the racetrack, another Ford driver, Bubba Wallace, back in the 43 this weekend. I asked him how he was getting ready for Daytona. He said actually texted a lot with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He said the one thing that had me a little bit worried, all those cars in February, they were kind of spinning out by themselves. I wanted to understand why that happened and what was going on. He said that's the biggest thing I wanted to get a feel for. And I just wanted to get in a pack and get a feel for how these Cup cars react versus the Xfinity car that I'm used to. I also asked him a little bit of news what his status was moving forward. He said, well, technically, I am no longer a Roush Fenway employee, nor am I employed by the Petty Group after this. He said, so when Eric Almirola comes back, I'm totally a free agent. He said, I don't think anyone knows that, but I am a free agent looking for a job. So he's no longer committed to Roush Fenway, and also will not be back with Petty as soon as Eric Almirola climbs back in the 43.
Yeah, we're hearing really good things about Eric. He's going to be able to test the car here in a couple weeks. And Darrell Wallace Jr., however, this is an opportunity. I mean, you don't ever want to see a driver get in a situation where he's injured or something happens where you have to take their ride. But when that does happen, it's a chance. It's an opportunity to prove what you can do. And now you go and you're going to Daytona. and you only have a few cup races under your belt. But this is a place he could win. This is a place that we've seen this car run exceptionally well. This car has had speed at the plate races. And this we've seen over and over and over. Surprises happen at Daytona and Talladega. So could this be a career-defining moment for Darrell Wallace Jr.?
You mentioned the car has speed. Eric Almirola, the only driver with top fives in both plate races in 2017 in that 43. So before his back injury, Eric Almirola was the hottest driver on restrictor plate racing. Now Darrell Wallace Jr. Bubba. He's behind the wheel of that 43, the iconic 43 at Daytona.
And so, Steve, the guy he was texting, asking information about, there he is right behind him. So, what a great resource for a young driver to be able to reach out to somebody like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and say, hey, talk to me about Daytona. And Dale's the kind of guy that'll tell him. I mean, he'll be honest and be out front and give him truthful information.
And this has really been the struggle for the 88. You know, we've documented how they haven't quite seen up to par at the super speedways. It seemed to be handling last year. This year is just maybe a lack of the opportunity to be aggressive. But it's very hard to work on your car. You come up with these plans and these theories, but when you come to the track to try to execute, look at the situation he's in. Behind 2 or 3 cars, much different than running in a big pack, Jeff.
Yeah, it's just hard to learn anything in this situation. I would, me personally as a driver, I'd rather be in a pack of 20 cars or not on the track at all. Because unless you're doing what Kyle Larson is doing and just trying to figure out where your speed is, because in these small packs, you're really not learning that much. Your car drives so differently in a 5, 6, 7 car pack versus what it does, what we're going to see Saturday night in a 40 car pack.
We're looking at the 88s of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and of course, this race will be his final run at Daytona International Speedway in the Monster Energy Cup Series, and the success he and that family name have had here. 2001 Pepsi 400 winner after his dad had died earlier in February. But he has had incredible success here at Daytona. We say for farewell